Must-read book. The New Gay Liberation, Escaping the Fag End of Feminism. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I already had a script written for today, but I finally read a book that Paul Elam and a few others had recommended to me in a few short hours. It's super short, and I realized that I needed to plug this because I have a good handful of gay or bisexual male subscribers now, and it is a must-read for any gay man or queer man or man at all, if they care about the gay community, if you're an ally or whatever. It's called The New Gay Liberation, Escaping from the Fag End of Feminism by Mathew Lye, who is an Australian guy I hope I can chat with someday. I bought it for just $5 off Amazon and read it on Kindle. And while I thought I mostly knew everything about feminists abusing gay men, there were some things that really did surprise me. Slight constructive criticism about the book, there are some bits of phrasing and potentially excessive biting wit towards the beginning of the book that might be off-putting towards people who are new to feminist criticism or to people that are still under the impression that the men's movement is equally as ideological and some sort of mirror image against feminism, you know, the way feminists would say. If red pill newbies have an averse reaction to the beginning of this book, that is understandable. About a year ago, I was very resistant to much of this stuff as well, as this resistance to criticizing feminism and my resistance to accepting that respectable men's rights advocates are basically right about almost everything besides maybe 5% of stuff that mostly comes down to opinions, comes from a logical source. You see, we all have this resistance towards criticizing feminism and maybe just simply listening to men's rights advocates because it's not just hardwired into us by way of basically all of media and even schools that bend over backwards to paint feminism in a positive light, as well as demonizing anybody who questions that narrative, but more so, we all have a deep-seated embarrassed reaction when we find out things that we believed were basically just full of a bunch of lies for the most part, and we believed them for most of our lives. I believed the lies in so many instances myself, even though I was never even a self-proclaimed feminist. Not to mention that we have this hardwired instinct to protect women, and we associate feminism with protecting women, even though feminism isn't really doing a very great job of helping women, especially in its final fourth wave intersectional and infantilizing form. Hopefully, it's the final form. I'm pretty sure it is. So yeah, reading this book about gay men separating themselves from feminists, I can sense that it was definitely intended for faggots like myself that have not just been skeptical of the current fourth wave intersectional feminist narrative, but have long been fed the fuck up with feminist bullshit to the point where we've begun really examining the entire history of the ideology. The book gives basically everything you need to know as a gay man to kind of, oppose feminism, including citations of sources in regards to the various vile, man-hating, and downright homophobic feminists that were not just writing as far back as the second wave of feminism in the 70s or so, but were celebrated with awards and influence. It talks about the history of feminists hijacking the gay liberation movement by way of the same types of bullying tactics I see them using today in queer circles like the radical fairy sanctuaries. The following line that was quoted from a feminist I forgot the name of was particularly poignant in regards to gay male spaces. The end goal of the feminist revolution must be, unlike that of the first feminist movement, not just the elimination of male privilege, but of the sex distinction itself. Genital difference between human beings would no longer matter culturally. So basically the eradication of gender, but of course they don't mean the eradication of feminine type genders. It's funny, because wasn't I just talking about that bullshit in my video about why gay men need to stop being fucking feminist cucks? There has always been a deeply entrenched belief in some version or another of the eradication of the male gender within feminism. Whether it is to just go ahead and kill us all, minus a small portion that will be used for breeding purposes or whatever, which they have actually said, or by this more subtly sinister annihilation of masculinity through gender deconstruction. If they can't kill all men, they can rob us of our maleness. And they will start with the gay men first. Sure, this is where people say, not all feminists do that. That's only the radicals. You're cherry picking. And I would agree that most feminists have no idea that this is a core tenet of feminism. But as a gay man who has spent time around countless feminists who interact with the gay male community that are following these traditions and have likely read the history that feeds and has led up to this maleness extinction manifesto, I can assure you that these feminists are attempting to carry out these orders, even if they aren't completely aware of it. Though I can't help but think several of them know exactly what they are doing, and I'm going to do my best to have those ones 86th from various spaces until they go through an ideological cleanse. You better believe it. Another thing I learned from this book was that there have been early feminist theorists that didn't just demonize male sexuality towards women as a weird unanimous form of rape, even if it's consensual, which feminists also say if you haven't heard. But some wacko homophobic feminists went so far as to say that it's the same for gay men and that gay men are enacting rape fantasies towards women on other men when we fuck, or some fucking crazy shit. I don't know, you guys really got to read this book. The only real critique I have of this book, aside from the crass language, which I am also obviously guilty of on occasion, is that they referenced Rose McGowan talking about gay men being even more misogynistic than straight men and how she made fun of pride parades. They mentioned that numerous times, but Rose McGowan actually apologized for that. It came from this interview that she had when she was upset about some specific event that she tried to organize and not enough gay guys showed up or whatever. But she since apologized. Her apology was underreported because a lot of Hollywood hates her. She was actually blacklisted for 5 years. So I don't blame the guy for not knowing about that, assuming he didn't hear about her apology. Other than that, it's a super interesting book and a good read. We need more gay men to be aware of all this stuff. It's not just that feminists don't really care about gay men, but the agenda that they have been slowly but surely pushing towards us is of complete and utter eradication of what makes us who we are. The agenda that feminists have been carrying out, even if many or most of them are not aware of it, and a select, very few others bother to challenge, like Christina Hoff Sommers, and Camille Paglia, is to have us both give up our maleness and for us to assimilate into their ranks to help them convert other gays. That's what they want, even though we can never truly join their club by their own admission. It is beyond messed up. Truthfully, there's a part of me that wants to believe that this stuff isn't as bad as the book makes it sound, because that would make my life a lot easier. Sadly, the book matches my lived experiences with the hundreds of feminists I have known my entire life. Let me know about your experiences in the comments and stay tuned.